Hey, Ghoul friends, it's me, Adrian, or Aiden. Either way, I'm still your host, and you are still listening to Susto, the podcast of ooky, spooky, scary stories. Welcome. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for returning from the grave. All my Susto fam, my ghoul friends, my best ghoul friends. And if this is your first time, welcome to the fam. Sit down, grab a seat, a crucifix, anything. So right off the bat, I'm just gonna, before I say anything else, I'm giving you a trigger warning for this episode. I will be discussing subjects related to gang violence, some gory details, and some murder. So audience, what's the phrase? Audience discretion advised. You know yourself best. I mean, obviously I'm not going to go into like extreme horrible detail, but there's some things that we'll be touching on that some folks might feel sensitive towards. So the next thing I want to do is give a big shout out to my patrons. That's patreon.com/sustopodcast if you feel like signing up. So for the month of May, God, it's already May. That's wild. Thank you so much, everyone. That includes Monica, Jeannie, Cami, Julie, Lori, Karen, Julianne, Amanda, Angela and Co, Sam, Josette, Victoria, Dee, Eva, Mario, April, Spooky Lou, Alejandra, Rachel, Sadie, and Liza. Thank you all so much. Y'all, if you haven't checked out the Patreon, I encourage it. I like to do some fun stuff with that. There are a bunch of different perks, all the way from ad-free listening to exclusive merch and gifts for free. Sometimes I end up selling some of the stuff that I create for the best ghoul friends, and other times it's completely exclusive. You can only get it if you're a best ghoul friend. I made these really cute koozies that have a little ghost on them and then Susto underneath. I will be posting those on the social medias. That's at Susto Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Those are in the mail, on their way to the best ghoul friends. Yeah, I think I'm going to be selling those as well. All the information will be in the social post, so just keep an eye out for it. If you have your own scary story, please make sure to send that to me so that I can share it on the show, either the episodes themselves or on the social media. You can do so by sending me an email to sustopodcast@gmail.com. You can send me a DM on social media, or you can leave it in a review. And if you want to leave 5 stars with that review, that would be amazing. Yeah, and I'll share your stories on here. I'm considering incorporating a new way to share your stories. I'm fleshing out the details right now, but you'll be hearing about that pretty soon. So again, keep your eyes out on social media for any and all updates on the show. I don't want you to miss out on anything. You know, that's it. That's my spiel. Quick and easy. Got it down to a science. And you all are so great at just, hearing me out. So again, we're going to move on to today's episode. One more time before I start, trigger warning, talking about gang-related violence and murder. So with that being said, we will go on and talk about MS-13's Satanic history. In September, an undercover informant led police into the woods of Maryland's Wheaton Regional Park, along trails with pastoral names like Deer Hollow and Oak Ridge, to a patch of shovel-turned earth. Inside the shallow grave, a shredded, blood-stained sweatshirt hinted at a horrific crime. The victim had been stabbed over 100 times, decapitated, dismembered, and his heart had been excised from his chest and thrown into the grave, Montgomery County detectives wrote in court papers made public last month. The grisly details drew widespread attention. "Satanic murder," declared a headline in The Sun. Authorities haven't said why the unidentified victim was mutilated, but the British tabloid could, perhaps, be forgiven for jumping to conclusions. According to police, the killing was the work of La Mara Salvatrucha, a violent street gang known as MS-13 with a long history of Satanism. Some of the gang's founders were devil-worshipping metalheads according to experts, and although the connection has waned over the past 30 years, it can still be seen in MS-13's use of satanic nicknames, tattoos, and other imagery. The gang's devil horn's hand sign is known as La Garra, a Spanish reference to Satan's claws, and some MS-13 members have told investigators that they committed their crimes at the behest of La Bestia, or the Beast. The Beast wanted a soul, An MS-13 member said after killing a 15-year-old girl who had disrespected his satanic shrine, prosecutors told a Houston courtroom earlier this year. Mara Salvatrucha's satanic influences are as old as the gang itself. Long before it became known as MS-13, the gang was called the Mara Salvatrucha Stoners. As the name suggests, it was founded by marijuana-smoking heavy metal fans in Los Angeles in the 1970s, according to Thomas Ward, an anthropology professor at the University of Southern California who has studied the gang. Originally, the gang was little more than a club for teenage Salvadorans to get high and listen to music, Ward writes in his ethnography of the gang, Gangsters Without Borders. It bore little resemblance to other Latino gangs. Instead of baggy clothes, its members wore black leather jackets and tight, frayed jeans. But it was also different than other stoner groups in one important respect. A few of its members were hardcore Satanists who worshipped the devil and went so far as to practice gruesome animal sacrifices, Ward writes. These Satanists gave MSS its badass reputation for evil, although the vast majority of these stoners never participated in these bloody ritual animal sacrifices or gave any thought to becoming Satanists. They banked on the gang's reputation for devil worship, which gave it and them an aura of mystery and terror. One Mara Salvatrucha member told Ward of his initiation into the gang. "We went to a cemetery and swore an oath by drinking each other's blood," he said. "We took a knife and cut our hands, and then drained our blood into a cup to drink it. We smoked a lot of mota, and then we cut open a cat." In the 1980s, a wave of Salvadorans fleeing the country's civil war, including some who had fought in the conflict, bolstered the gang but also began to change it. MS morphed into a more traditional street gang that offered Salvadorans protection from Black and Latino gangs. Over time, MS outstripped its local rivals in sheer brutality. Its members became hardened by prison, where they adopted what Ward calls the Cholo style of dress common in other Latino gangs. It was also inside California's penitentiaries that MS earned the 13 now in its name by aligning with the Mexican Mafia, a powerful prison gang known as La M, or the M, the 13th letter of the alphabet. One thing that didn't change, however, was the gang's association with Satanism. When MSS became MS, it kept its reputation for Satan worship, Ward writes, which gave it an aura of demonic mystery. By the mid-1990s, when LA's soaring gang violence pushed it past DC for the title of America's murder capital, officials had come to recognize MS-13 as a public safety threat. Starting in President Bill Clinton's second term, the administration sought to tamp down gang violence in the U.S. by deporting thousands of MS-13 members to El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. But the strategy backfired. In the weakly governed, war-ravaged countries of the Northern Triangle, the gang was able to reconstitute itself and then rapidly grow in strength, according to a two-part history of the gang published in the online Spanish-language newspaper El Faro. Over the past 20 years, MS-13 and its rival, 18th Street, have carved up territory in Central America, said a federal law enforcement official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. "If you grow up in one of these havens, that's it. You are MS because your father was MS and your grandfather was MS," he said. "And for you to be able to walk down the street and get a soda or what have you, you have to make sure you are part of something so you are not preyed upon. That's their safety net." In these gang-controlled neighborhoods, Satanism persisted. What the two gangs do have in common is the belief that life and death are somehow intermingled, Pablo Trinica wrote in The Independent. This belief partly explains the bones and devils tattooed on their bodies, as well as their satanic rituals, such as hacking a victim to death and scattering their organs on the ground in a pentagonal shape. As MS-13 violence returned to the United States with a vengeance in the mid-2000s, including a spat of high-profile murders in the Washington region, so did reports of the gang's Satanism. The brutality of the gang's crimes is increasingly horrific, the Los Angeles Times reported in 2004. Homicide victims, including many women and teenage girls, often are found so mutilated that Spanish priest José María Moratalla, who runs a San Salvador rehabilitation and job training center for former gang members, suspects that some gang members practice satanic rituals. A year later, the Virginia Gang Investigators Association hosted a seminar for law enforcement officials on MS-13 and Satanism. What we are doing is making sure local police are prepared when they show up, Randy Crank, the association's president, told the Associated Press. But no seminar could prepare American officials for someone like José del Cid. By the time he came to the United States from El Salvador in 2012, the then 16-year-old was already a seasoned killer. He testified in federal court last year. His first victim was nearly his own mother. She'd kicked him out of the house when he was 9. Members of an MS-13 clique, the Parkview Loco Salvatrucha, or PVLS, found him sleeping by a river and took him in. One of the gang members gave Del Cid a shotgun and sent him home to kill his mom. Barely old enough to hold the weapon, he raised it to his mother's face and pulled the trigger, but it didn't go off. For 2 years, Del Cid served as a paro, or errand boy, delivering weapons and drugs between gang members. At 11, he was promoted after assisting in the deadly ambush of a delivery truck driver who belonged to 18th Street. 2 years later, Del Cid was given the chance to become a full-fledged member, or homeboy, when his clique captured another 18th Street member. The homeboys had the dude tied up by a river, Del Cid testified in U.S. District Court in Alexandria last year as part of a sweeping federal case against the gang in Northern Virginia. They gave me a machete and all I had to do was slash at him. The gang cut him up and threw him into a bag and into the river, Del Cid said. Afterward, Del Cid was officially jumped in as a homeboy with a beating that lasted 13 seconds. After involvement in a third killing in El Salvador, Del Cid decided he wanted to get away from all that by coming to the United States. It's unclear how he entered the country. Del Cid did not respond to questions sent to him through an attorney. What is clear is that once in Alexandria, he quickly joined the local PVLS clique. Within months of arriving, Del Cid was involved in a string of brutal attacks. He admitted to stabbing a 12-year-old boy in the chest just to scare him. If I had wanted to kill him, I would have gone for his neck, he said. Pulling a gun on another teen, robbing a drug dealer, attacking a man with a hammer, and making plans to kill 2 people, including another MS-13 member. In October 2013, when Del Cid was 17, he helped murder a fellow gang member suspected of snitching, he said. But the body proved too big for the shallow grave in Holmes Run Park in Fairfax County. So we grabbed a machete and began to go at his legs, Del Cid testified. Del Cid and other gang members later dug up the body and moved it deeper into the woods, covering it in acid to dissolve the body more quickly, he said. A couple months later, when he was 18, Del Cid helped kill another gang member suspected of stealing from the gang and sleeping with another gang member's girlfriend. The victim's head was cut off and buried with his body in a shallow grave again in Holmes Run Park. In June 2014, Del Cid and 2 fellow MS-13 members were on patrol in Alexandria when they attacked someone they mistakenly thought belonged to the 18th Street gang. After an MS-13 member nicknamed Taliban shot the man, Del Cid and the gunman fled into the woods. I told you, homeboy, that what I wanted was to feed the beast, Taliban told him as they fled, Del Cid testified. Let's pray, homeboy, said Taliban. I have already fed the beast, now we have to pray to the beast that we will not be caught. The beast basically is the devil, Del Cid explained in court. When you're involved in MS-13, you feel that the devil is helping you, and sometimes the devil asks you to do things for him. Del Cid and Taliban made devil horns with their hands and joined them together to pray for deliverance from police. But the devil wasn't listening. Del Cid was arrested 2 weeks later. He eventually cooperated with authorities, pleading guilty to the pair of murders he committed as an 18-year-old, and testifying at trial against 12 other MS-13 members in exchange for placement in the Witness Protection Program while in prison and possibly early release. Testifying earned him a green light or death sentence from his old gang, he said in court. Yet, it also offered him something immigrating to the US had not: escape from MS-13. I also saw that as an opportunity to get out of all of this, he said, because if someone is sent back to the prison with all the locos, then you end up killing again. Okay, every time I do something or I cover a topic that is based on like true crime than paranormal, but still has that aspect, those scare me more, because this is real people, like real physical people that we interact with day in and day out. People are capable of some of the most terrifying things. And then I think when you fold in this aspect of they either believe or they claim to have a relationship with evil and with, the most evil entity that I think we're all familiar with, which is Satan or the devil. But I had never really, yes, I had heard of MS-13 growing up, and to this day, especially with some of the more recent elections, they're kind of using this gang as a bargaining chip against immigration, which I'm just going to put that out there right away. Especially more right-wing conservative people have definitely done this. They used, if we let all these people in, we're letting in all these gang members and yada yada yada, as if we don't have gangs and killers and murderers and horrible people that are born and raised in America. But that's an entirely different conversation. I'm not going to dive into that. Yeah, I'd never really knew this paranormal history that the gang has, and more specifically this satanic history. As was said in the story, it's not really something that a lot of current members are reported to have a real close relationship with, but that it was founded in that and that it has roots in that, I think is insidious enough. And really quick before I continue, I do want to say that this is an article that I read, and it's by Michael E. Miller from the Washington Post, and this was posted in 2017, a couple years ago. So yeah, and then after seeing this, I went and I of course did more diving into other stories about this, and there's one story that was really upsetting. It's the more popular one, and it was posted before actually this story that I just read, and it's about MS-13. It's MS-13 gang members accused of killing teen claiming Satan wanted a soul, police say. And this is about two specific gang members. The story goes they abducted this 15-year-old girl. She was so young. This is also from the Washington Post, and the links will be in the Susto Google Docs and Patreon. But part of this says, 2 men had been arrested, each charged with murder and aggravated kidnapping, accused of holding 3 girls in an apartment controlled by their small branch of Mara Salvatrucha, or MS-13, a transnational street gang with a reputation for extreme violence. 2 of the girls survived. What happened to the third was laid out in the defendant's initial court hearing last week. And again, this was in 2017. When they actually went to their hearings, they showed up to the courtroom and they were smiling and waving at the TV cameras before the prosecutor related the account of a 14-year-old who managed to escape the apartment, one of the 2 that survived. It's just you can tell that these guys had it seemed like they had no remorse for what they did, and in a sense maybe they were even proud of it, to do that and then to be caught and to be in court facing it and then to just be smiling and waving at the cameras. That's weird to me. That freaks me out. It's what is in this person's head, or what's not in this person's head, or their heart or their soul, that they're able to react that way when they're about to be faced with the consequences of something so brutal that they did, right? And I don't think these are the same people that I was referencing in the article that I read as the story, but they were tying this murder to a wave of murders in Virginia, which is, where the Cid had immigrated to when he came to America, which is it's not these 2 guys. So yeah, this case was something that it kept popping up when I was searching for more of the gang's satanic history, and it's honestly kind of what dominates the search. So if you were to try and look this up, you would see result after result about this one specific case with these 3 young women and the one who, sadly was killed by them. But this next one that I'm looking at, it's from smallworldsjournal.com. There's a couple entries here, but I wanted to read the first one. It says Mara Salvatrucha's links to occult rituals and Santa Muerte veneration or worship. And it says Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, as a street gang, as well as a group with prison gang attributes in Central America, has greatly evolved over the course of the last 4 decades. Starting out as a Los Angeles stoner gang, Mara Salvatrucha Stoners, MSS, it then was directly influenced by the brutality of the El Salvadoran Civil War with an influx of new members, losing the second S in the gang name in the process, became a vassal of the Mexican Mafia with the addition of the 13 to its name. MS-13, was increasingly influenced by the Mexican cartels and finally has come under the sway of darker Santa Muerte influences. That, I'm going to pause real quick. I'm not sure about that. I feel like anyone obviously can worship La Santa Muerte, attempt to work with her, but I don't think that worshiping Santa Muerte is inherently like an evil practice. I know people that work with the Santa Muerte that are not bad people. They're not murderers. They're not gang members. I don't like this connection of La Santa Muerte to just being innately a bad thing or evil. That's not true. It's like when I talked about the Constanzo cult and Mark Kilroy. They practiced a religion called Palomayombe, and that's not necessarily an evil religion or a bad. I don't think you would be hard pressed to find any religion that is evil. It all comes down to the people that are practicing that belief, right? And what they do with it. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that while reading this, because it seems like they said the sway of darker Santa Muerte influences. I don't think Santa Muerte influences that way. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it. I don't know too much about her, so I'm not going to try to explain it. But just from what I've heard, I feel like this is incorrect or inaccurate. Anyway, it continues. Beyond its journey from a local street to a transnational power-seeking gang, the overlapping ideological themes and cultural narratives underlying Mara Salvatrucha's evolution have been built upon a foundation of Satanism, occultism, brutality and torture, and rampant criminality. While some gang cliques and their members are still primarily secular in their orientation and view Satanism as occultism from more of an ideological perspective, many others embrace a violent, Mágico-religious cosmology in a sense, becoming true believers that now adhere to amoral or even evil spiritual values that invite sacrifice and torture. This page, it references that Washington Post article that I read about them. This is another one. This is an entry from an article, I think it's titled Police Say Mara Salvatrucha Gang Sacrificing Underage Girls in Satanic Rituals. Part of that article on this page, it says, while clearing the structure, police determined the inhabited house was being used by MS-13 as a crash pad / hideout, or what some members of law enforcement refer to as a, quote, destroyer house. The interior contained numerous graffiti-stained walls with the following words and images visible, quote, Santa Muerte, or the Saint of Death, with the E's replaced with 3's out of respect for MS-13. Locos, a term used to identify MS-13 members, which is the final quote that was in the article. M stands for Mara, as in Mara Salvatrucha. 504, area code for Honduras, a country with significant ties to MS-13. CL stands for Centrales Locos. Colorful images of marijuana plants, clown masks, and Santa Muerte. In one bedroom, officers located a shrine to Santa Muerte with burning candles and a skeleton hanging from a ceiling fan. Some of the lit candles contained images of Santa Muerte. A skull Halloween mask with painted blood was also present. A built-in bar with candles, graffiti, and bottles of booze was kept in another portion of the vacant house. Wow, you know what? This just reminded me of, I think I've told this story before, where I think I was like a freshman in high school, and I went with a little group of friends and this boy that I had a crush on, and we went to this abandoned house that was near one of the parks in my hometown. And there were so many stories about this house. Oh my God, I'm freaking out now. It could be way off, but this just brought that memory back. So there's so many stories about this house, about like how it ended up being abandoned, who used to own it, what goes on there now, just a bunch of scary stories about it. I remember I went with the group of friends and the boy I had a crush with. We went onto the property and we went up to the house, and it had a screened in porch. And so we went onto the porch because that was open. And then on the front door, it was like an old house, but on the front door, there was a chain and a lock, and looked like the chain and the lock. It wasn't rusted. It didn't look like super old. So we were like, maybe people still use this place because it's locked up. The lock isn't broken. For as long as we've known this place to be here, if it was completely abandoned, then the lock would look worse, or like more weathered, or it would be broken. But you know what I mean? We're just like, that's weird. It looks like there's someone that might still be visiting. So then the boy that I had a crush on, he actually was like, well, I'm gonna see if I can peek in. He was like, he asked us to like press the door for him, because it was chained, and you press the door and it like cracks open kind of. So we were like pressing the door for him so he could look. He looked inside, and one of the scariest things that happened to me, he looked inside and he jumped back like 5 feet, jumped back, and then turned around and running, just booked it, and like left all of us there. And he was like, let's go. And we just start screaming and freaking out because we're like, what the fuck did he just see in there? So of course, fight or flight instincts take in. There's obviously nothing to fight, and little freshman me is not going to try and fight something. So I start running behind him too, and we're like running. We get back to the park. We calm down, like we stopped screaming. We're like, what happened? What did you see? Why did you run away? Like, what's going on? And he told us that when he looked, he saw a bunch of candles and statues like in the center, I guess whatever room he was, probably the living room, is usually what a front door enters to, that it was completely empty, except in the center it looked like there was a shrine, and there was just a bunch of candles and statues. And I'm like, were they Virgin Mary statues? Were they Jesus? Were they Saint Michael? Were they Santa Muerte? Were they something else? Like, it was hard to see, but he said that a bunch of the candles were on, but that he didn't look enough to like, really be sure what the statue was. He just knows that he saw the silhouette of a statue or something in the center of the room, and then a bunch of candles around it. And that's why he freaked out. He booked. Who knows like what was being done in that room, like we don't know what kind of worship was happening. We don't know what kind of person was worshiping there. You just never know who you're involving yourself with. It could have been a Catholic church. There are bad people everywhere. And so so now reading this, it like the house was like graffitied up too. I'm like, wow, was it one of these houses that we adventured onto? Thank God we couldn't get in. Imagine if we were able to get inside and like we got caught by the wrong person. Oh my fucking God, why were we doing that as kids? Oh my God. Please don't explore abandoned places. I love seeing like urban exploration videos sometimes, but then other times they really freak me out because I'm like, what's going to happen to this person? Obviously not in the video because they posted it, but you just don't know what or who is out there. And again, real life people scare me more than anything, probably anything. Okay, thank you all so much for listening today. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one actually, like I said, it really did freak me out a couple of times. Something about just people, I've always said that the living are more scary than the dead, or I'm more afraid of the living than the dead. But again, if you have your own spooky story, picture, video, audio recording, anything supernatural, paranormal, unexplainable, or scary, please feel free to send it to me to sustopodcast@gmail.com. You can send it on the socials, DM it to me at sustopodcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. And you could also write it in a review. And please feel free to leave a rating or a review wherever you are listening. I would greatly appreciate it. Keep your eyes out on social media for any all updates. I'm going to be posting pictures of those koozies soon. It's summertime, perfect weather for a cold drink. But, if you got some sensory issues or you just need like a cute little koozie to put your drinks in, you might want to think about getting one of these because I really like them. I'm going to be using them all summer. So with that being said, I will let you go until next time. I'll talk to you later and stay out of trouble. Bye.